Hi, this is John Herrick. I'm Chief Product Officer here at the New York Stock Exchange, and you are watching Taking Stock.
Let's do it, folks. One and all, welcome to the show. 2 minutes to go here into the close at the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange. We are expected to see all-time highs for both the NYSE Composite Index as well as for the Russell 2000. The small caps here for the first time in history expected to finish just above 2,700. It is a positive day of buying across the major market indexes. Pretty comparable story at this hour for the S&P 500, the Dow, the NASDAQ, the NYSE Composite Index, as well as the small caps. Telecom, discretionary, and tech really leading your S&P 500 for the risk-on trade here today. Staples, industrials, and real estate are your biggest S&P laggards. Welcome to the broadcast, one and all. You're watching Taking Stock. I'm your host, JD Durkin. Mere moments away from the ringing of the closing bell here at the New York Stock Exchange. We got the team from Transocean. This is ticker symbol RIG. Set to do the honors here in just a moment. Volatility on the day down with the VIX falling back down to a 15 handle for the first time in a few sessions. The 10-year Treasury yield is in elevated territory with gold and silver. That rush to physical safe havens very much back in play. Both gold and silver reaching an all-time high. Your oil benchmarks, WTI and Brent crude, both in negative territory. WTI currently priced at about $59.40, Brent at $64.11. The team from Transocean set to ring the closing bell. Katy Perry is on deck. She'll join us right after. But first, time now for our favorite tradition, the ringing of the closing bell. It's my favorite part of the day, and the crowd goes wild here for fresh all-time highs for the New York Stock Exchange Composite Index, as well as for the Russell 2000. Your final tail of the tape on this Thursday. I like to call Thursday a mini Friday or a Friday Eve. January 22nd, the S&P 500 up 0.5%. The Dow 30 up, let's call it 0.6. The NYSE Composite Index up 0.3. And the small caps, the strongest performer of the bunch, up 0.76%. Let's bring in our good friend Katy Perry. She is the CMO at Zero Hash. Welcome back to the show. First time we've had you in a while. Nice
I know. Happy New Year. Can we say that still?
You know what? If I haven't seen you yet in the year, I'm one of those people.
Happy
Everyone's
New
like,
Year.
don't say
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you for being here. So not quite at all-time highs for the broader S&P, but what have you seen? What a wild couple days it's been like for traders. What have you been following?
I'm following the BitGo IPO. I mean, I was outside walking in. It was like there was Pop-A-Shot.
Yep.
There was
mini golf.
arcade games. It was an awesome event. It's really cool to see sort of the boring side of crypto get the hype. You know, the infrastructure plays, and I think retail investors are going to be really excited to look at them as a picks and shovel sort of move as they extend beyond their Coinbase portfolios.
Of course, we had IPOs last year from Circle and Bullish, and now BitGo kicking things off here in 2026. We'll be bringing our viewers an interview with the Chief Revenue Officer at BitGo coming up in just a bit. Investors really reacting the last 72 hours. All eyes on Davos. Hello, like, oh my goodness, whiplash out of the president's remarks, the big sell-off at 2% on Tuesday, the bounce back the last 2 days. Where do you want to start? The floor is yours in Switzerland.
I can't keep up. I mean, crypto obviously was a really interesting story because you saw everyone doubling down on just the reality of it and how they're implementing it. You saw Coinbase, the CEO was there. Everyone was talking about it, whether you were at the lead of a major financial institution or a pure play player. So I think that was a big one. You also had the geopolitical backdrop with Greenland's drama going on in the background. All, of course, while everyone's wearing snow boots on a mountain. So what could be more fun than that?
Well, being here at the New York Stock Exchange, I gotta say, if we don't get to do the show live from Davos, it's just sour grapes. Who even wants to be there? Although next year, if you want to send us, we'd be very happy to go to Davos. To be fair,
we'll figure out the boots.
Talk to me about the latest Zero Hash stablecoin report. What is on your radar? You think we should pay a bit more attention to here in 2026, Katy?
Stablecoin's one of these words that was really deep in the crypto community for many years, and now it's really part of the day-to-day of a lot of apps and what people are using, and they just don't even know they're using it. So the report is really looking at the momentum of using crypto infrastructure and blockchain as a new way to move money. We calculated there's probably about 1.4 at the lower end billion accounts that could use stable coins for payments based on Cash App onboarding people. You have Interactive Brokers. Earlier this week we announced Gusto. You can now pay people across borders using stable coins. So there's a lot of momentum there. There was also an interesting stat about companies mentioning stablecoins in their EDGAR filings. Year over year, that's up 290%. Over 2,300 companies mentioned the word stablecoin in an EDGAR filing last year.
That's amazing. I got about a minute left with you. Economic data on your horizon, either for the rest of this week or in the days and trading weeks ahead, Katy Perry?
I think we're all watching the job numbers, of course. I think I zoom out a bit on that, and I'm always following the AI sort of what's going to happen with jobs in the long term. We also saw from P&G their earnings today, which was a good signal for sort of consumer sentiment, which seems a little bit on edge. You know, things are doing pretty well. People are still on their Kalshi, their poly market. Things seem good on the surface, but there's a little undercurrent of worry I saw in P&G's earnings. Personal care, beauty was up. Things like diapers, razors, other things were down. So potentially indicating that people are buying fewer things, which we'll see how that nets out.
Yeah, one of those core consumer staples companies. It was one of the best performers in the Dow today. We're going to talk a lot more about Procter & Gamble in just a bit. You teed us up perfectly here, my friend. Welcome back and a happy new year. Get away with saying that one last time.
All right.
We'll talk to you
Take
again soon. Skylar will grab your mic. You and I will head this way. Excuse me, one else. Bring the show through. All right, Katy Perry perfectly teed up Procter & Gamble earnings, which we got earlier this morning before the bell, went on to be one of the best performers in the Dow Jones Industrial Average 30 today. Earnings per share of $188, a beat for the street's expectations. The company says it expects to see even stronger results in the second half of 2026. It's a dividend play, a defensive, reliable cash play, excuse me, Sarah, and investors very much rewarding this more defensive name amidst all the geopolitical uncertainty. Shares of Procter & Gamble up already 5% here, year to date. We'll take a look here at Generac. Shout out to the board team here at the New York Stock Exchange for getting this one up here. And a tip of the cap to Gav Blacksberg, my buddy over at Wolf Financial. He flagged this one for me earlier today. Of course, we are expecting this mega snow and ice storm throughout so many parts of the United States today. When you have a strain on the energy grid, you probably need a generator or some power equipment. That's where Generac comes in. The average one-year price target on this stock sits at $204 a share. That suggests more upside potential off of these current levels of about another 18%. All right, time now to bring you an interview that's very important to me. Last week down here on the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange, I had the opportunity to catch up one-on-one with financial broadcast legend, the great Bob Pisani, who's been down here on the floor for more than 3 decades for CNBC. We now bring you part 1 of my sit down with Bob. Take a look. Bob Pisani joins me now here on the trading floor of the iconic New York Stock Exchange, making his return once again to the big board where he has worked for many years. He is the author of the book, Shut Up and Keep Talking, Lessons on Life and Investing from the Floor of the NYSE. What an honor to have you here, and thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you, JD. When I got here, right at this spot, there were 4,000 people working on the floor, and they did 80% of the trading on the floor, open outcry. 4,000 people. It's changed a lot over the years, but I have so many friends and so many memories, and you know, I walked on the floor, and there's still several hundred people here, still working away, and it's just a wonderful, iconic place. I never worked for the New York Stock Exchange. I worked for CNBC, but I was here every day. So I felt like this is my home. This is my family here.
What is it like for you to come back to the NYSE?
You know, this is the center of capitalism. So people say, gee, there's not as much yelling and screaming as there used to be on the floor. And that's because of the development of electronic trading. But the NYSE is still the global center of capitalism. So when the stock market goes south and there's a rotten, terrible day, they still show up outside the door here. That means it stands for something. It's still a center of market-making activity. It's still a center of capital formation. And as is the NASDAQ, by the way. I have nothing against the NASDAQ. I have many friends over there, too. It's just that I was based here. So symbols mean something. And the NYSE stands for something. It is one of the greatest brand names in the world. You could say, people know who Coca-Cola is, but walk up to somebody and say, what does the NYSE mean? What does that mean? And I would bet you a startlingly large number of people will be able to say, oh, I think it means the New York Stock Exchange. That's brand recognition.
What do you remember about your first live shot here at the New York Stock Exchange in September 1997?
It was nerve-wracking because there were 4,000 people here on the floor. Most of them were not terribly fond of reporters. They didn't trust reporters. I had a very tough time establishing credibility. One of the things they were very concerned about was that I would suddenly blurt out what the orders were. You know, you talk to these people, and that time, there was a large number of what we call $2 brokers. They had small numbers of orders that really powered the floor. What I wanted was for them to give me a sense of what the order flow was like. How much is coming in to buy oil stocks? How much is going out to sell pharmaceutical stocks? Flow, what we call. They had a problem with that because they were afraid I'd say, oh, I was just talking to Tom Smith over there. He had 50,000 shares of Pfizer to sell. And of course, they're quasi-fiduciaries. They don't want that kind of information out. Broad, general observations they're okay with. But I had to establish trust. And a lot of them didn't trust me. It was people like Art Cashin from UBS, became UBS, that helped sort of put my word out on the floor that I could be trusted. So my very first hit, there was a lot of joking on the floor, a lot of old-time traditions of pranksterism that went on the floor that went back 100 years. So my very first hit, my colleague Bill Griffith is the anchor. He's in New Jersey, where our headquarters was, and Bob Zito was the head of communications at the time. He was an extremely powerful man. Here helped create the modern bell ringing system. Dick Grasso was the CBO. And as I was going on the air, Bill Griffith says, and now let's go down on the floor. Bob Pisani, senior markets correspondent, down on the floor. Bob, just as I'm going on the air, Bob Zito hands me a piece of paper and it says, "Your fly is down!" Exclamation. And now I'm on the air and I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, oh my God, what the hell? Well, P.S. my fly was knocked down. But Bob Zito was cracking up on the sideline and everybody else is laughing. And that was my introduction to welcome to the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Now, at first I was horrified, and then I thought, well, at least they're starting to accept me because now I got my first hit and they're making fun of me. That's certainly a good sign. So that was my introduction.
I love the phrase pranksterism down here. Powder on people's new shoes down here, stomping around. What else do you fondly remember from the days when there were 4,000, affectionately, as you refer to them, animals here at the big board?
Well, the powdering of the shoes goes back 100 years. And it was primarily for a lot of new people that came onto the floor. And what they would do to try to get people going is when they threw talcum powder on your shoes, people would suddenly stand up and say, oh, when they start stomping on to get the powders off the shoes, and then people would, the traders around them would start going, hey, and they'd start dancing. So it was a bit of a way to like loosen people up and make jokes with them. And it was just a great sense of camaraderie that had it. Then there was, of course, the Christmas caroling every year. I mean, barbershop quartet singing went back to the 1860s and before, to the creation of open outcry trading in the 1860s. And there was a big tradition of singing a particular song, Wait Till the Sun Shines, Nellie. And in 2000, Art Catch and a few of the other people who led it asked me to join them. And I covered it on air for the first time. And that's kind of when I knew I was in.
The book is Shut Up and Keep Talking. The author, the great and one and only Bob Pisani, back here at the New York Stock Exchange. What an honor. Thank you, Bob.
JD, thank you very much.
Great.
Always a pleasure to be back home.
Let's do it. Welcome back to the broadcast. You are watching Taking Stock live from the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Time now at this hour to bring you the latest headlines you need to know in the world of fintech, crypto, and artificial intelligence. First up, the crypto majors, kind of a mixed territory. Bitcoin's trading fractionally at this hour. ETH is down 1.4%. Solana selling off about 2% on this Thursday. Next up, a sweeping crypto market structure bill is now delayed on Capitol Hill. This as Senate lawmakers shift their focus to housing affordability for the midterms, giving industry players a bit more time to lobby for a deal. And finally, Galaxy Digital planning a new $100 million hedge fund targeting crypto and fintech volatility with a long-short strategy. This as investors position for rate cuts from the Fed and the next phase of digital asset adoptions. Our next guest joins the show now. He is remote. This is JP Richardson. He is the CEO and co-founder at Exodus. JP, welcome to the broadcast. Great to have you. And let's start here. You've got the first SEC qualified tokenized stock offering in the United States. Tell us all about it. And what did it teach you? What have you learned?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what we did was revolutionary in the sense that we put public equity, we proved that public equity can run on modern rails so that shareholders can hold and move shares directly with faster settlement and on-chain utility. And what we're seeing now, ultimately, I mean, you have Larry Fink out at the CEO of BlackRock, one of the biggest financial institutions in America. You have him out at Davos talking about the value and importance of tokenization. So now we're seeing that this is a hot topic, and kudos to you guys over the New York Stock Exchange with your most recent announcement, building a tokenization platform. Like, this is super exciting.
JP, yeah, we've been talking a lot about that announcement here this week, of course, from the New York Stock Exchange. Tell me more about your takeaways, your impressions, what you think that announcement from the NYSE can mean for the industry writ large.
I'll say what it's demonstrating is that, again, the blockchain brings a lot of real world utility. And so by tokenizing equities, ultimately what it's going to unlock is the ability to have instant settlement. Everybody remembers the GameStop fiasco with Robinhood. And so now, by having instant settlement, this is no longer going to be an issue. You can also see a world where you have flexible dividends. And I think for mainstream consumers, as crypto and equities come together in platforms like Exodus, like Robinhood, consumers are going to demand things like dividends being paid out on a more regular basis. And so there's just a lot of really valuable things that can be unlocked by tokenizing equities.
JP, talk to me a bit more about this. I got less than a minute left. What does on-chain equity actually improve versus, let's say, traditional stocks?
Yeah, as mentioned, I mean, you can even think of like shareholder voting. Right now, you get a paper voting certificate in the mail or through the email. And this costs companies hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can imagine now, by having your shares tokenized, that you have instant settlement, you can pay dividends whenever you want, you can survey your shares instantly if you want, and this opens up shares to the global market. This is so incredibly powerful for consumers and investors all over the world.
JP Richardson, CEO and co-founder at Exodus. Thanks a lot for being on the show. Next time we'll do it here in person. It is great to have you. Folks, don't go anywhere. We got much more Taking Stock coming up after this quick break. Let's do it. Welcome back to the show. Time now for the headlines you need to know in the world of startups, raises, and rounds for your Friday afternoon here on Wall Street. First up, South Korean AI chipmaker Furiosa AI. That's a cool name. Looking to raise up to $500 million in order to scale production, take on NVIDIA, and position itself for a potential IPO. All of this coming as demand for more energy-efficient AI compute continues to surge. Next up, speaking of NVIDIA, they're placing a big bet on the next phase of artificial intelligence, investing $150 million into Base 10 as the inference startup doubles its valuation. All of this going on to highlight the shift from training models to delivering artificial intelligence at scale. And finally, BitGo shares surging nearly 25% today right here at the New York Stock Exchange. A strong early signal investor appetite for crypto IPOs may be back after last year's digital asset sell-off. Speaking of the team from BitGo, what a huge day down here at the New York Stock Exchange as they celebrated their IPO. And the Stock Exchange's very own Kristen Scholler sat down with BitGo's Chief Revenue Officer, Chen Fang, all about this IPO day here at the big board. Take a look.
Welcome back, everyone, to NYSE Live. We are live down here on the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange. You saw BitGo ring the opening bell at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, and the IPO celebration continues. In fact, I'm joined now here by one of BitGo's executives, Chen Fang. He's the Chief Revenue Officer at BitGo. Chen, welcome and congratulations.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you here at the Stock Exchange. What does this celebration mean today as someone who has been with BitGo for several years?
Look, it's been quite the ride. BitGo has been around for 13 years, so that's a long time. Dating all the way back to, I would say, the beginnings of Bitcoin, right? BitGo was here before the start of Ethereum, before the start of Solana. Vast majority of the L1s that's live today wasn't even around when this company was first formed. And since the beginning, for 10 plus years, we were the underpinnings for the growth of this industry, right? We provided raw infrastructure. We're talking wallets, custody, trade execution, settlement to hundreds, now thousands of companies in our sector, in the digital asset space, and neighboring sectors as well, in fintech and in TradFi.
Chen, we heard from one of your colleagues leading into this big day today that you are like the heart of the company. And that's why I referenced earlier, you've been with BitGo for several years. What has it been like to get to this major milestone, celebrating your IPO on the NYSE today?
Truly amazing. I mined my first Satoshi way back in 2012. And I went into crypto full-time with my own company in 2016-17, which got merged with BitGo in 2020. So been with the company for 6 years, been in this space full-time for close to 9, and been in this space for even longer. We've come a long way from the small coffee shop in Seattle, where a bunch of guys talking about this new technology called Bitcoin, to here on the floor of the NYSE. Like, that story arc is absolutely amazing. It's a convergence of two worlds, truly.
As the Chief Revenue Officer, walk us through the products and services, the main core ones to BitGo that the company offers.
Yeah, so everything's built on secure wallets. We were the OG wallet service provider, providing programmatic wallets at scale. You needed 10 Bitcoin wallets, 100, a million Bitcoin wallets. You called our APIs, and voila, you have it. We literally provide the backbone for a bunch of these service providers out there. On top of wallets, you have custody, you have trading, you have borrow, lend, settlement, all these additional added services that you're able to buy individually or in various packages. We service the entire spectrum of customers, from the traditional finance folks to the software platforms out there. Anybody that's looking to get access to Bitcoin, unlock Bitcoin trading, come to us, we can help you.
What is next for BitGo?
Look, the IPO is just the beginning. A lot of people think, oh, you're going through this IPO process, congratulations, it's the end. No. This is the very, very beginning of a new chapter. We have to do a lot more to bring the rest of traditional finance into this space.
Chen, thank you so much for joining us here on the trading floor, and congrats again.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Who in the F Knows 2026 predictions. I am Scarlett Sieber with Money 2020, and today we're going to be diving into another bold forecast from our content team. If you're new here, new to this game, here's the deal. I break down one prediction for the future of finance and give it a verdict, either bank on it or bounce it. Because in fintech, you can stack your chips, but let's be honest, who in the F really knows? So let's cash in. Today's prediction comes from Oliver Smith, our head of content at Money 2020 Europe. And woo-wee, is he coming in hot? Here's what Oliver says, and I quote, "Forget Revolut. In 2026, ChatGPT will become the first true financial super app. Point blank, period." Going after Revolut, dang boy. Okay, the vision. People upload their bank statements to ChatGPT for advice. And OpenAI moves, like acquiring New York fintech startup Roy, signals that it's a bigger play here. In Oliver's world, banks and fintechs don't lose customers, but they do lose the front-end relationship, becoming API endpoints while ChatGPT becomes the default interface of your financial life. All right, Oliver, you came in spicy and smart at the same time, going straight for the 800-pound gorilla of Revolut, one of the largest private companies in the world by valuation. But to be fair, this isn't coming out of nowhere. People are already forming relationships with AI agents, using chatbots for late-night counseling, companionship, decision support, and beyond. Studies and expert commentary show users turning to ChatGPT during mental health stress, with some researchers even finding the AI responses rival therapists on empathy, usefulness in specific tasks, etc. Of course, there's a lot of caveats here, but that behavioral shift really matters because if AI is already a life counselor, AI as a money coach is kind of a logical next step. On the plumbing side, though, OpenAI partnered with Stripe, and this is real infrastructure, not just headlines. Stripe powers payments for ChatGPT Plus, and in 2025, OpenAI rolled out instant checkout inside ChatGPT using the Agentic Commerce Protocol, co-developed with the Stripe, letting users complete purchases in chat and pointing to the future where Assistant can handle transactions for you, not just talk about them. That is pretty crazy. That's a foundational piece of any super app thesis. But here's the reality text. Always a check here with this reality. Trust, regulation, and liability. Handing your entire financial life to a general purpose AI means grappling with data privacy, suitability, and accountability. Europe's AI Act phases obligations through 26 to 27, and that staggered timeline alone makes a 26 flip the switch super app moment pretty tough. Consumers also remain wary about bias, data use, and automated decisioning, especially with their money, so while behavior is shifting, the compliance clock runs a bit slower. The verdict? I hate to do this for you, Oliver, but for now, we're going to bounce it. AI will absolutely play a bigger role in personal finance, and OpenAI's Commerce Rails plus acquisitions like Roy show that intent. But first true financial super app by 26? That's a bit of a stretch given regulatory runway and trust adoption curves. This looks more like accelerating convergence. AI as a smart front end layered on top of a bank fintech rails, then a full replacement in the next 12 months. I think anyways. What do you guys think? Is ChatGPT poised to be the interface for your entire financial life? Or should we bounce this check until trust and compliance catch up? Drop your thoughts and check out the rest of Who the F Knows 26 predictions at money2020.com because in fintech, the only bet is that nothing's guaranteed.
Welcome back to the show. Your final scorecard here on this Friday Eve. The S&P 500 up 0.5%, the Dow 30 components up 0.6%, and the small caps reaching once again a fresh all-time high. That is going to do it for this Thursday edition of Taking Stock. Have a great night. We will see you again live tomorrow from the big board.